just sent out a corrected link to everybody. Thanks for joining our first book study that we're doing in collaboration with Intend Indiana and the Kheprw Institute. And this is the book study is going to be twice a month, and it's focused on understanding the affordable housing crisis. So this month we'll be doing Evicted by Matthew Desmond. So we look forward to hearing all of your perspectives. Those who've read the book, please feel free to chime in. And those who haven't read the book, feel free to ask questions as well as chime in based off the conversation, as well as your own life experiences. So we're going to go ahead and start with just a quick intros of folks who are here. So if we could, and in our meetings that we usually have, we like to do a quick check-in exercise where people say your name, how you're feeling from 1 to 10 approximately. If today were color, what color would it be? And then we also do a check-in question. So the check-in question for today will be, what brought you to this discussion? So I'll leave it there. So I'll start with myself. My name's Alvin. I'm with the Kheprw Institute, and I'm feeling like an 8 today. It's been a busy week, but it's been good. And my color is teal, or teal sea green. And what brought me here? So the work with Kheprw, and also just I would say one of the impetuses for the book study is another book that we read called The Art of Impossible, which talks about really a way to build your understanding through reading books. So I think they call it the 5 books of stupid, which is like trying to really absorb if you're trying to get your hands around a certain area. So, and in this case, I also help with the Community Land Trust for Indianapolis, helping organize that with folks at Kheprw. And I will pass it on to Alicia. And then after you check in, just pass it to the next person. Sorry, Alicia, I caught you a little before you're ready and you're muted.
I'm trying to figure out what happened to my volume. Why is my volume off? There we go.
We can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry, everybody.
Oh, you're good. Welcome.
Hi, how was everybody today?
Doing pretty good. Did you hear the check-in questions?
No, I didn't. My volume was off. I'm like, what's going on? My speaker's on, but the volume's off.
No problem. So it's your name, if how you're feeling from 1 to 10 today. If today were a color, what color would it be? And then what brought you to the discussion here today?
Okay, so my name is Alicia Bell. I am the executive director of A Safe House Corporation. So we are an emergency housing agency for the ages of 0 through 18. So I am here today to help with the Sustainable Homes program that we do, rapid emergency rehousing. So I'm interested in a partnership for our services, using just the data that comes along, knowing that there's between 10 to 13,000 teens with no sustainable life plans. That's our agency's job, is to tackle that. If I were a color today, I would be pink. My emotions for today are running at like an 8. So very high, but there's still some, I'm just open to what's to come for the day. Did you hear that, Alvin?
Yep, we heard you loud and clear, and you can pass it to the next person.
Okay, let me see who's on here. And my glasses broke, so you guys, I'm squinching today, so please forgive me. And I think it's April that I see. April Donner.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Donor.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you. So hey, April Donor. What brought me was so I do community building work, the neighborhood level, and I also with Asset-Based Community Development Institute, also known as ABCD. So I do a lot of trainings and workshops for people around community building. And so, yeah, this is just an issue that I've wanted to learn more about, to do my work better and to understand the lives of my neighbors and within my neighborhood better, as well as to help other folks who are doing community work understand housing, and how we can kind of show up for each other better and reclaim housing as a right for all. I will pass it to Alvin. You're next for me, but are you going to go?
I will pass it on to Amy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy, and I am here because I'm a reporter. This is full disclosure. I might take the recording of this meeting. It depends, and hopefully include it in some reporting that I'm doing about the Indianapolis's first planned community land trust. So I report for a radio program called Making Contact, and our website is radioproject.org. I'll put that in the chat in case you want to check it out. So I'm here to listen and learn and report.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy.
Oh, I forgot all the questions. Sorry. 1 to 10, I'm an 8 as well. My color would be like kind of a orangey red, like a very like Caribbean bright. And what was the last question? Check-in I have written here.
I think you answered it. What brought you here
Good.
today?
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and help you pass it on to Aprili.
Greetings. Really here, and we use we and I interchangeably, and my number today is A2. It was a 1 until we started this discussion. Had a little difficulties this morning, and let's see. My color is field green, just a plant, light green. What brought me to this discussion is a long journey with housing in Indianapolis, and throughout the country, as well as in my experience living abroad. We also believe that housing and shelter are a human right. And we are considering working in the field of housing again. We once worked in the field of housing as a health inspector, and now we're considering doing so as a property manager. So I'm a community member and longtime supporter of Kheprw. Thank you. And
Thanks.
thank you. Would you like me to pass it on to someone?
Yes, please do.
All right. So how about Jeb?
Hi, everyone. My name's Jeb Reese. I work for Intend Indiana. At Intend, I manage the land bank and also work on different affordable housing projects. Today, I'm feeling like an 8. I also think that the color I am associating today with is sort of an earthy green. And I'm here today because I'm really passionate, interested in, the topics that we're discussing. I'm a law student in the evenings at the IU McKinney School of Law, and I'm really passionate about landlord-tenant law, property law, land use law, and really wanting to bring these issues to the forefront in the work that we do with affordable housing. So I will pass it on to Hannah.
My name is Hannah, and I would say I'm like a high 7 today, a 7, but like almost an 8. And my color for the day is orange. I have been interested in reading all the books on the book study list for a long time. Some of them I have read Evicted, but other ones I've not yet read, but I have on my bookshelf. So excited for this opportunity to read and discuss in community. I'll pass it to Erica.
Hi, my name is Erica Foch. I am the Education Outreach Coordinator at the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana. My color is pretty much always aqua blue. My number today is probably a 6, leaning towards a 7 now that we're doing a book discussion. And what brought me here today is I'm an avid reader, and I am relatively new to the housing nonprofit sector, super excited to be learning a lot of stuff. And Evicted was my first nonfiction book that I read like a couple of years ago, and I attended Matthew Desmond's talk. So I'm super excited to be here today with you guys. And I will pass it to, has Gabby gone?
No, I haven't gone yet. Good morning, everybody. My name is Gaby Lorino. I am a freelance journalist in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I came here from California, and before that, I lived in Florida. I was pretty amazed to find out about how bad the eviction rate is here. And that's actually what my group reports on, is housing and affordability and eviction. And unfortunately, it's a very big problem in the Midwest. And even as a renter who can make rent, it's sad to see where the laws have gone and how powerful the landlords are and the corporations are, and how they can just charge extra for whatever. So I had the privilege of getting to interview Dr. Desmond for one of my first assignments with my group, and I'll put up a link to that if you want to look at. But he was brilliant, a really smart guy, and I did read the book to prepare for the interview. It's been a while, but I wanted to at least, I'm working on a report right now for my other job. I wanted to at least listen in and hear what you guys had to say. So thank you for including me, and I will pass it on to Stephanie. Has Stephanie gone yet?
Nope, I have not gone. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Stephanie Quick with Attend Indiana. My color today is a sunshine yellow, sort of like this color of my top. I'm feeling like about an 8 today, I would say. Feeling pretty good today. What brought me here is I currently at Attend Indiana, I work primarily in regards to housing on the homeownership side, but it is always of interest to me really because of my upbringing in substandard housing, as well as what's keeping folks from moving on, either just from safe, decent housing, what those barriers are, and then of course what those barriers are to home ownership as well. So that's what brings me here today. Just a lot of my background is associated with affordable housing. I will say in regards to the book, I found the book to be a very easy read. To me, it was unbelievable but believable. Some of the things that the folks in the book had to go through and experience, the book definitely read like it was a fiction book. If you didn't know that those things occur on a day-to-day basis across the country, you would think that you were definitely reading a fiction novel. So that is me, and I will pass it on to Victoria.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Pastor Victoria Borman. I'm the CEO and spiritual advisor of a Safe House Corporation. We are with Alicia Bell as our director. We are youth young children's development center for unification. Sorry, my voice is very low right now, and I hope you can hear me good.
We can hear you loud and clear. You're good.
I'm trying to get over fire section, so I hope you can hear me good. Also, thank you. We also are working towards heaven for young people, for for male and female, and also a family center. And that's what we're here for, and to support and to collaborate with it.
Thanks, Victoria. Appreciate it. So you can pass it to either John. We have John and Wahid and Don who have to go still. So whoever wants to step in.
I can go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Get my video. How's everybody doing? This is John Jamerson with Legacy Taste of the Garden down in Southern Indiana, Lyles Station, originally from Indianapolis. I am a grade 8 today. going with the sunshine yellow, also feeling bright and everything. My purpose for being here as I'm into trying to help with community development through agriculture, also looking at how to help to sustain communities and stuff. I know that the housing issue also aligns with the areas that are considered food deserts also. And so I'm just here, one, to listen in, see what I can pick up and learn, and how I can implement some things, maybe make some contacts and things of that nature. And with that, I'm gonna pass the mic to my man Wahid and let him take over and go from there.
Hey everybody, my name is Wahid. I'm sorry, my camera's not working right now. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, working to learn more about the housing space in Indy. Yeah, I'm a funder, but I want to be in community with people as much as I can, learn as much as I can. So great to be here, glad to be here. Always love being at anything like Kheprw is hosting.
Thanks, Wahid. Appreciate it. And I think last but not least, we have Dawn. Go ahead. We're just doing quick intros, just your name, how you're feeling 1 to 10 today. If today were a color, what color would it be, and what brought you here today?
Dawn Lindsay, Real Estate Development Director with Intent Indiana. Number, I would say 8. And color green. I seen the grass for the first time in a long time. So that's it. What brought me here? I purposefully did not read the book because I wanted to get some other people's perspectives on it and just see how that fits in with my life experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Dawn. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to whoever wants to kick it off. And I'm thinking maybe we start with how reading the book, like the feelings, if someone wants to share kind of your experience with the book, how it made you feel, and maybe some of the things that surprised you or changed your perspective.
I'll start, Alvin. As I was reading the book, as I mentioned, it was hard to believe that I was actually reading a nonfiction book. I'll say it again, believable but unbelievable. As I was reading through the book and just reading and hearing some of the experiences of some of those residents of the substandard housing, it definitely bothered me. It bothered me to the point of realizing that these same things just continue to happen. They've been happening for decades at this point, and it's just like a vicious cycle. It's still happening right now today. There were points in the book as I was reading it where I just literally just started talking out loud if I were in the room by myself and just threw the book down. It was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that. I mean, it literally took me like literally to the point or the place where some of the characters were. And I shared my book with someone else, so I can't think of all the characters' names right now, but that's definitely how it made me feel. I mentioned that I grew up in substandard housing. I will say that I've never experienced anything that any of the participants in the book experienced, but I do, of course, know of folks who have experienced just that right here in Indianapolis, including my own friends and family.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I just want to add that, we hear so much about regular people being priced out of the housing market and what a problem that's become because what I've heard is that the interest rates were so low that it was better for investors to buy up housing and then rent it out at a big profit. And so a lot of players like BlackRock and others got involved. which was super lame and and difficult and really has hollowed out the middle class in America. I really was shocked to find out how much places that you would consider not kept up at all. I was very shocked to know how much they could get away with and how big their profit margins were. And it makes sense. It makes sense that investors would flock to that. We actually had someone here in Fort Wayne that called himself the real estate god, who would just put people in these places that he bought, and then he'd give them a short lease, and then he'd increase the rent by $1,000, and they'd be trapped, or they'd have to move out in the middle of the night. And he ended up, I think, getting tarred and feathered and run out of town. But for a while he was on top, and he was some jerk on Twitter that people were following. Oh, this is the behavior that we want to emulate. And it's really appalling. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I would just build off of what Gabby just kind of touched on. Like, I think that there is this very strange culture where people, especially younger people, look at acquiring properties as an opportunity to get rich, or act as like investors, and sort of adopts this real estate bro mentality that isn't very appealing, in the long term. And there really is this interesting culture of, this is how I made, X amount of money, and how I acquired X amount of properties. But what it does is it really dehumanizes, what exactly housing is. And so you're really just looking at numbers and money as in terms to like people's lives. And so when I was reading the book, I was really, I really enjoyed the way that the author really talked about these people's lives and how they kind of got into these situations, both the tenant and the landlord. And I think that really helps us, especially, when we're talking about like, we're focused on funding and output and data and things like that. I think that definitely helps ground us in the space that, we're in right now in terms of, what we do with housing, and making sure that we take into consideration that these are people's lives, right?
Thanks, Jeb. And let's dig a little deeper there. I mean, and that talks to the intersection of both the system, the economic system, political, social system, and the intersection with people's own stories and lives. So does anyone want to speak to kind of how they saw through the book the use of the people's stories and to reveal some of the underlying systemic challenges?
I would like to, Alvin.
Oh, go ahead.
Somebody else go.
Oh, you're good. Let's do Alicia, and then we'll go to Erica, right?
Okay, awesome. So I just really wanted to kind of touch base on the fact that there's a lot of people who are going through these underlying issues with the landlords and the tenants' rights. And I think it's more of information. I believe it's more of tenants not really understanding, the rights that they do have, setting expectations when looking for a property, but then having to address the issues that are going on, which may be situational, anticipated, or chronic. So, without the knowledge of what they're going through, they just settle for anything because they need it right now. And there's nobody out there to really kind of, be on their side. So you can kind of look at us as like the little people. Touching base on what Ms. Quick said earlier, I was one of those people. Like, I've had a landlord put us in a house, and then because we were actually coming from being homeless, they took the money that we gave them, but then they turned around and sent it back to us in a check, and then told us to leave the premises. We didn't have anybody to represent us, although we knew that we were doing everything that the lease had said. We were actually doing right by tenancy, but we had nobody to represent us when we went to court. And the court was able to just get rid of the whole case. But looking behind me, there was 20 other people just like us who was in there facing eviction through the same housing agency. There was nobody there to help us. So yes, evictions have been exacerbated. There are rights that that the landlords are using to get over on the tenants. This is real life stuff. I'm not a bad person, but something happened to me within housing, and there was nobody to really address it. So I feel like the stories that have been heard through people are life changing, because once the stigma gets on your back, it's harder for us to move forward. You were a person who did pay rent, but something happened that may have been anticipated or situational, and they couldn't move with rent. You have to look at the stigma that the court placed on their back. So there's these stories, are stories that need to be heard, because it addresses what's going on with the homeless issue. There has to be a way that just because you go days and you cannot find a way to pay the rent or deal with that situational, anticipated, or chronic emergency need, there has to be something else in place. Because just because a person can't pay their rent don't mean that they shouldn't have somewhere else to live. I think the more people that pay attention to the cause, and we keep telling these stories, that they begin to be heard. And that's kind of like the reason why a Safe House Corporation is set up the way it is, because understanding that social welfare side of everything is very important. These are social welfare issues that we're dealing with, that we're addressing today. Although the need is there as a charity, but there's a greater issue, and that's creating sustainable laws that will help people be able to still obtain housing and still be able to have a place to lay their head, although they went through a situational, anticipated, or chronic emergency need. I feel like we really need to address that, and I think there's power in numbers, and I think that's why everybody is kind of in this picture right now. This is not all of us, but this is a handful of people who kind of cohesively understand that have been told and portrayed in that book, and that what we actually go through. So just really hammering down on that. Alvin, keep taking stories, keep addressing them. I believe this is something that we need to do, start talking about mental health and putting it out there, because all of these underlying issues come from a breakdown within mental health. I believe that there's so many different ordained things that can happen to us all. At any given time, anybody can be thrown off the rocker that they're used to. But one of the things that we also have to look at, and I say this to a few other constituents of mine, is that looking at these people, they are the minority people. And once you deplete a minority person of resources, what else are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? And that's why we are experiencing crimes against humanity right now, because there has been a breakdown that nobody's addressing. And so we have to step back, take a look at that, and figure out what we can do with these stories that we're hearing through these people, and actively create something that's going to help elevate them initially. And so, you know, I'm one of those people. So I hear you, I'm listening. These stories are very important, Alvin. I want to keep capturing them.
Thanks, Alicia. Appreciate it. And then we'll go to Erica, and then go to Prilly then.
Yeah, so I kind of had the benefit of reading this book before I was in housing, and now reading it again now that I am in housing. And so it's been kind of like a completely different experience reading it the second time, because I'm noticing a lot of things that I didn't notice before. And especially with like the current Indiana General Assembly session, like I'm just noticing a lot of things where, you know, the substandard conditions in these housing, and then they would try and withhold rent, and then they would get evicted. And that's a lot of what we're seeing in Marion County here in Indianapolis. So it's almost like this book was written about Indianapolis, even though it's in Milwaukee. And so it makes like the legislative session so much more important, and the fact that we need to get some sort of recourse for tenants to hold their landlords accountable to some sort of, you know, safe standardized safe condition housing, where, you know, there isn't a sewage backing up into the toilet, and, you know, they do have running water, and they do have heat in the winter. And so like that was something that really stuck out to me, is because I just see all of these news articles coming through Indianapolis that just completely relate to the stories told in this book. So that was something that really stuck out to me. And then the other thing is, now that I am in fair housing, just the amount of struggle there is for, you know, families with children who are being discriminated against because they have children, and people don't want to rent to families with children, and the extra struggle that they have to attain that safe, affordable housing. And with vacancy rates in Indianapolis at 6%, you know, landlords can be choosier. They can rent gouge people, and exploit, lower income people in different ways that may or may not be enforceable with the tools we have in our toolbox right now. So that kind of just really stuck out to me through the second reading of this book, now that I am kind of on this side of things.
Thanks, Erica. Prilly, go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's here, present, and chiming in. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing your story, a bit of your story. It felt very impactful. And we wanted to ask a question, if we could pose a question to the room, just to kind of read the room. We want to ask who maybe amongst us has not experienced housing insecurity, and maybe you respond, maybe you don't. It can be rhetorical. For me, having experienced housing insecurity for some time, it makes me feel like this, as much as many other texts, it makes me feel like this is very scholarly and sometimes a bit removed from the actual experience of not having a place to go in your home country, things of that sort, just so I just wanted to kind of ask the question as to whether people would be interested in kind of like filling out the space in the room, in the container, and to just see like who amongst us has never experienced housing insecurity, and just to acknowledge maybe the difference between like being able to read a book about something as critical as shelter versus like having experienced it. So I hope that's well received. Thank you.
Thanks, Prilly. So, and I'll use that as a cue. Again, if people want to share their experiences and bring it into, I think the idea for the discussion is to use the book as a prompt to really talk about our own experiences and the experiences we have in our community, whether it's ourselves or friends and family. So I'll open it up.
Get my I myself have not, to my knowledge, experienced any housing insecurity. I've, grew up in, my parents owned their home. I bought the home from them. And, where I live at now, I own a couple homes. With that being said, I do have a sister who faces those issues. Oftentimes, I've had to assist her throughout the years. My family has. There's been times that we've helped individuals in our family who've transitioned from one city to the next to be able to transition. Neighbors and friends that I've known that have gone through these situations. I do believe it's a deep concern that we need to strongly consider how we approach it. I see that as well as the issue with food insecurity, that in a sense it's a way to be able to manipulate and to be able to oppress individuals. And so for those who are out there that are experiencing it, I deeply feel for you. Those who have experienced, I feel for them also. And I don't consider myself above anyone or even above in the future having to go through this situation myself. So that's why I try to address issues that I don't like. Even if I see it in others, I try to address it and see how I can combat it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And I'll add in, for me, and again, I was having a conversation, for me, I haven't experienced it in part because of a lot of support from my own family and community here at Kheprw. So both my mom was able to sign so I could buy a house, which was what made it possible. And within Kheprw, like a lot of what Kheprw's done to build community and support young people is in part provide housing, which helps people to be able to like do the work in community, even if we don't have like a ton of money to like pay people salaries, where they can then go into this market that is like really charging people rent and taking money out of people's pockets. So, but I think I was having a conversation the other day with someone, and one thing they said was that people don't become homeless because they lose their housing. It's because they lose their relationships. And I do want to take that another level deeper to the systemic level, which talks a lot about, I think the book in particular talks a lot about how entire communities, particularly based on race, but also based on income as well, are exploited, and that the dollars are extracted from these communities for profits for both. And in the book, Sharina, who's like a landlord, a local landlord in Milwaukee, and the people who extract from Sharina, which is the banks. So it's really a continuum of taking of resources from one group to another. And I think another book that we've discussed and talked about in the past is Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, which really talks about America and really our global cultural society as a caste system that is predominantly based on race, but not exclusively based on race. And again, it kind of it tracks that string from like the founding of the nation to today, and comparing a lot of societies with like how basically the purposeful creation of a segment of society to both provide labor as well as to extract value from it is really a structure. It's not an accident. It's not a problem in our society that we're all trying to fix, but it is part of the structure of how our economy and how our social system works, which then, and I think it illustrates in the book, where there are whole communities and families that have been so exploited and impacted by both the economic system as well as the criminal justice system, which again is an exercise of the state in enacting certain policies that then impact a particular community, in this case, the Black community in Milwaukee and beyond. So I would say, like, for me, that's really what it pulled out within Evicted, was the personal stories really helped to illustrate, and not just through raw, like dry facts, because we are so numb to like numbers, I think a lot of times, but through actual people's lived stories and experiences in the book or in our own lives that we can connect to, really helped illustrate this extractive system. And for me, trying to think through that, building that understanding, what can we do about it to rebuild those relationships and to find ways to create a system that's not extractive, or in some ways starts to imagine what could be through the resources and the relationships that we have.
Real quick, I just want to jump in with you, Alvin. You're absolutely correct in the manner of speaking that everything's been done in systemic. That's exactly what it is. I want to say systemic, but I also want to iterate that the separation of the two between personal and then also state, because there is a great separation there. You're right. The state has been doing this for a long, long time, but then also wanting to take a look at that individual and how a lack of understanding and a lack of resources can also put a person in this same setup, even without the state even touching them. A person has to have a foundation. And without a proper foundation, they can never properly elevate to learn and obtain the things that they need to obtain. 1 in 3 people that I deal with on a daily basis is homeless or experiencing some type of housing issue. 1 in 3. And this is not just the people that I work around. This is people in the general community that I run into every day. I'm actually in what I'm trying to change. We need to look at not just the state's side, but also the individual. Programming and effective programming is very, very important. The idea of understanding that just because a person is minority, that we need to just give them free, that's not going to work. That does not do anything but exacerbate the situation. We have to lay a foundation to where they're not only just given something for free, but they have to put a little elbow grease, a little relentless effort into obtaining and maintaining what is provided to them as a resource. And that's kind of like what I see, not from just personally being involved in it, but just understanding the data, understanding the codes that are being used within the state, the whole 9. So I just want to bounce off of what you said, Alvin. You're correct. There is a systemic issue going on. And again, becoming this social welfare organization allows us to be able to use the power in numbers that we're creating, that we're seeing. It's like the people that are jumping on this call, these are numbers. We're no longer individual because we know of what is going on. We know of the jobs that needs to be had. We see the issue. And so when we take the numbers and we create a social welfare plan, that's how we implement as a group to make change, to have laws created that'll be able to address these issues. There's so many laws being passed right now. We are at work all day long, but they haven't stopped passing laws though. So we have to make sure that we take a step back, create these committees that'll be able to leverage the social welfare need of the type of programs that we are designing. This goes beyond just a simple charity. Again, we're starting to look at crimes against humanity happening right here in Marion County. And I think we really need to tap into that and understand what that means and understand the power of numbers and how they can help leverage the Kheprw Institute in their goal in creating sustainable housing and developments for the people.
Alicia, can you speak a little more to that idea of the importance of not just giving, but the idea of people taking action and agency?
Yes. So again, my vice president just said, she said it's about educating. It's about educating them with the needs that will allow them to be able to put themselves in a situation to where, okay, so for instance, I sat at a roundtable meeting the other day and it was like 40 different agencies and we're all in the same city doing the same thing, but there's nobody on the same level to help elevate the purpose or the mission. So everybody's out here nitpicking for power, but understanding that if the numbers come together, the need will be met. It will be met. The numbers are so great. So again, we have to educate, putting together programming or just informations, period, through every agency. So there will be a connection. So we're actively developing some things right now that we call the hub. It's the human utility backup to readdress some of these issues right now, Alvin, that we're talking about. But again, there has to be a way that we can communicate and keep everybody at the same page. The way that I feel like doing it, that we should do it, is to be able to, well, I don't want to tell y'all what we're doing and then give it away, right? But anyways, just really addressing the need education more than just talking to somebody and letting them pass through your programming. It's actually taking that time out to one-on-one develop that programming. I was in foster care when I was little. My mom and my dad loved us dearly, okay? They would have killed and maimed and tamed anybody who would ever try to hurt us, but they didn't have the proper tools to take care of us. And DCS moved in. Our families was one of those families that made DCS what it was when it first started, okay? They exacerbated situations instead of addressing them. We don't want to exacerbate situations. We do want to address them. Again, if you're doing housing, if you're doing mental health, if you're doing psychology, if you're doing cooking, if you're doing all of this laundry list of things, there are programs that can be created that help educate the individual to get out of the circumstance in which they are in. Sitting at that roundtable meeting, I heard a person say, and they were at the government level, they said, a person came in, their income was 10,000. We're doing our program, they added an extra 10, 12,000 to their income. In my head, they're gloating about it, but I'm like, shit, that's nothing. They're still minority, they're still in poverty. So you came in to exacerbate a situation, you gave them a couple more dollars. Well, we want to take it to where, yes, they come in at 10, 20,000, but when they're done with your program, they should be at 60, 70,000. Because if you look at the income ratio to living, it was $17.56 an hour before the pandemic to get them out of poverty. Well, since then, we have 6 bouts of inflation. So how much does it cost to live right now to get you out of poverty? So we need to look at the current data that's available, and we need to figure out what kind of program that we can use and implement, which is the services that we all provide, to get them on a trajectory to where their income can be balanced out. And you'd be surprised that sometimes these people already come with innate or inherent talents that can be capitalized off of to put them at the rate where they need. But they need an individual to take time out to kind of undress that, unpack it, and educate them on what they need to do. And we're not talking about 6 months to a year worth of classes and sessions. And no, it needs to be rapid. They need a rapid hit of understanding. And typically that will come if you sit down and you put it on a roster and you figure out what the needs are and how we can address them and put them into a service that will be with Monica or Amy or Averly or Alvin or Alicia. They belong somewhere. So we need to figure out how do we address the somewhere and get them at a level to where they can be most functionable.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. Appreciate it. And I do want to open it up. We are coming up on time. We have about 5 minutes left for this book's discussion. So I want to open it up to anyone who hasn't got a chance to share yet. Anything you want to share, including Bobby, who joined us. If you want to come off mute and introduce yourself briefly, just your name and what brought you to the discussion today. And if you have any thoughts on the discussion so far or the book. So I open the floor, Bobby or anyone else who wants to share.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. I initially got on this mailer from attending a virtual workshop on land trust. But I saw that it was I didn't even know what this call was today. I just saw it pop up in my mailer. So I'm glad I jumped on at this time and to hear what the sister had to say. I think what she was talking about is really a clairvoyance when it comes to just average people like myself, just having that education to, quit falling into the systemic predatory practices that have been created for us to fall into because we don't have the knowledge and we don't have the understanding. And, just giving us dollars to make it seem like it really helps us and still not understand how to allocate that dollars or to keep from allowing it to be taken at the end of the year through taxes or whatever. This is something I really believe that our community needs more of because it's really a shame that we got to continue to be in this kind of hamster wheel of a system to try to move to the place of having sustainable living and, being able to, just do our best to be a good citizen, So I think today's, from what I was able to hear, was right on point, and I would love to be and get more involved with some of these programs to be able to assist. And, like she was saying too, we might already have little gifts and talents that we can plug into these things. And, I think that the goal is to know that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can just tap into the the opportunities or offer your gifts and talents to people who need it, to where it can pull you along the way. And just to give a short example, for me, I'm a first-time home buyer, and how I was able to get the home was through a program that was at the John Bonner Center. It was called a NDA or some program where they matched your dollars 3 times. And at the end of like the 3rd or 4th year, the funds that you put in wouldn't exceed $1,200, but the funds you got out was close to $5,000. and the funds that you got out, you could only use them for 3 things, which was to pay for schooling, start a business, or purchase your home. And if I would have never got into that program, I still would probably be renting or struggling with renting. But because of that program, I was able to utilize that and be able to, work with people that taught me a little bit about the process. And we are now, we have a house, investment property actually, but it's still a lot more that we didn't know that we still are a victim to. And that's where I think when you have these allies that are organization that can help you because they went through that area of stress or struggle, it becomes something that we really need to do. So yeah, I'm so happy that y'all are offering this type of information, and I definitely want to continue to be a part of these Zooms and a part of any upcoming in-person workshops too. So yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby.
Actually, I have to hop off, so I just wanted to say goodbye and thank you all so much. I really learned a ton, and I took some notes. I'll pop it in the chat here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, April. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us. And I
Bye.
will just a reminder that we do have another session on Evicted. So if y'all want to come back for part 2 and dig a little deeper, it's going to be on March 21st at this time in the evening, 5 p.m. And we'll send out a link, make sure we send out the right Zoom link this time. So we'll hope that you can join us then. And thank you all for your contributions.
Thanks.
Have a good rest of your day.